Oh. Oh, push. Oh. Ho.
Oh, Philly.
Oh. Ho. Oh, Paisan. Oh. Back up. Oh. 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 Ho, ho, ho. Ho. Oh. Ho, a double. Oh. Oh.
Oh.
Oh.
Hey.
Oh. Ho fucking ho.
Oh. Stop fucking interrupting. Ho, 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 ho. Ho, ho, ho.
Fuck you, Santa.
Hey.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, it's a girls from Icelandic air. Oh. Oh. My ho, my ho, my ho.
Oh, Massachusetts.
Oh.
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 God, oh, what the fuck?
Oh.
Hey.
Oh. Oh.
Hey, oh, coffee.
Oh. Oh.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, Jean-Philippe.
Oh.
It's Papillon.
Oh, hello, Jim. How are you? Oh. Whoa. Oh.
Come on, what are you saying?
Oh. 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 What are you doing?
Oh.
Oh.
You're a wormy cocksucker, you know that?
Oh.
Oh. How could you say that?
Oh.
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 Oh, rim shot.
Fucking asshole.
Oh. Oh, look at that.
Oh.
Oh. Oh, girl. Oh, my cousin. Oh. 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 Fuck all of you.
Oh.
Oh. Son of a bitch.
Oh.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
Oh. Cuz.
Oh. Oh.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
Maybe. There we go. There it is. Hello, humans. Welcome to Audio Face. We're an irreverent podcast about music news and culture that mostly matters. I am Sean.
I am Dan. I have a button on the side of my mouse that does what basically you see all the windows on your computer, whether it's Mac or it's Windows.
Yeah.
It does everything. I hit that instead of
no.
clicking, and that just messed up all my timing. I had everything else right until then. And so yeah, Sean, you're hosting, right?
Yeah, episode 314 of this fine established podcast about ways to say we've got 3 records that we're bringing to you guys. 3.
Count.
Count. We have I Lay Down My Life For You, all caps, by all caps JPEGMAFIA. We have Paradise State of Mind by Foster the People, all normal spelling. And then we have all caps Cry Baby by Ray Khalil. Actually,
If Sean's hosting, we're gonna definitely note the capital letters.
These. Like I made my bed. I got to sleep in it too at this point. So, Crybaby album I've been waiting for quite some time. So very excited to review that. And we got some stories. A last second single that
we listened to.
And I wish I had 2 more minutes back in my life just to rewind, just schmeckle helicopter that, but yeah. So
that new single was "Fly" by Quavo featuring, well, I guess Quavo and Lenny Kravitz, because the song is based off of "Get Away," and then it is "Get Away" featured by Lenny Kravitz, which is the song from the 2000s. It's a good marketing strategy in the sense that there's a generation of people who will, like, Quavo is already last generation, so to speak, and Lenny Kravitz is lasted for several generations, but he is last generation. Like, this original song "Get Away" was in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
But that's a sound that's coming back, and newer generations are like calling back to an understanding, and Quavo will be a vehicle for that. If the Kravitz name with Zoe Kravitz, who has a music career in her own right, wouldn't already do that. But yeah, it's an interesting pairing. It went better than I expected to. I'm not gonna say it's great, but it definitely
It's
went better
literally
than I
just fly away with a trap beat on. Like that's all it is. And I'm like, okay. Like,
Quavo rapping his ass off, and it's still a 4 out of 10.
oh, dude, it's still like a 2.5 out of 10 tops. It's still rough.
Sexy Red is a 2.5 out of 10 when it comes to
Sexy
rapping.
Red is like a 1.8. So fine, I'll give Quavo the unequivocal 3.6 Ronkin. Not great, not horrifying. There you go. The tried and true reactor melting in Chernobyl. Yeah, it's not great, but it's not horrifying. Like I'll give him that. That's what we'll do.
Mike Boy for Mayor noted. He mentioned last time.
Oh yeah,
that
no
we
Larry
need to
album.
do the Larry June released a new album, and I feel like for the love of California, we got to do that before the summer ends. We'll add that.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that next week because with these ones we already, well, 2 of them we already pushed back. JPEG and Ray Khalil. We already did that, and then we'll do that one next week for sure.
Yeah. Like Sean said, this is already we are catching up episode, and so we'll continue to do that, and we continue to do that. So thank you for reminding us. And we always love to take audience suggestions, so thank you for suggesting something. And we've talked about Larry June before, and like Larry June, also from the Bay Area, so we love that representation. That's not a hard ask for us. We just can't do it immediately. Even though I said that we would do it last episode, sorry. This time I'm like noting it down somewhere.
Yeah, we did one of his records last year, I think. So
yes. Yeah. Also, before we super continue, and to give me some time and maybe use some time to just prepare for things, but we will be there's a lot of new members content. Bam just started his History of Islam series, and we did almost a Power Report size episode. It ended up being almost 2.5 hours long, just with the life and times of Muhammad and his moral and immoral acts, his getting close to Allah. Did we show a picture of him? Did we not? You have to only one way to find out. Become a Syndicate 23 member for that, or become a member on YouTube for the Power Report channel, youtube.com/Dan from the internet, or Twitch. Become a member if you are watching on Twitch and have an Amazon Prime and a free sub to give, or you're already doing subs through that. Feel free to go through Twitch and subscribe. But yeah, all of those, I need to upload it to Twitch to be fair at time of recording, but I'll get that done. But all those will be up soon. I have interviews that are also going to be up soon. There will be clips available for everyone, but the full bits will be only for members. So yes, members content. It's here. It's happening. Please check it out for that. And thank you all for the support. Anyways, let's move on into the first album of the day, shall we?
All right, serving up Gary's way, Bean. We've got I Lay Down My Life for You by JPEGMAFIA. 14 songs, 41 minutes long. Been wanting to do this one. It came out at the beginning of the month, so it's been a couple weeks. And we've both been wanting to get to review this album. And we had Scaring the Hose last year with just the JPEGMAFIA Danny Brown collaboration. One of my favorite crazy, weird records we've ever reviewed on this podcast. I still bop to it this day. However, however you bop to it.
It is a modern classic.
Absolutely.
And I think we're like jokingly saying that when it came out, but kind of maybe had a gut feeling even when it came out. But it's been solidified just by the cult classicness that it's already received, the people who have gone to see it on tour, the number of hoes it hasn't scared away, frankly. So it's all good from there. And JPEGMAFIA, at a time in a year where We on Audio Face declared rap to be dead, JPEGMAFIA is one of the easiest examples to bring to mind of true rappers who are pushing the genre in
Absolutely.
newer, more interesting directions. I don't think artists should copy this, but I think artists should take on this overall strategy of, going in this direction. And, I don't mind if I think Lil Uzi Vert also, invariably can kind of fall into this category too, less well executed, but he also brings this sort of like metal rock theme into rap that,
Same
frankly,
thing with Lil Yachty and a couple others too, but
well,
it's
yeah, I think
nice.
Lil Yachty is definitely going in a more psychedelic route. This is a lot more like heavier. But yeah, I agree. These are all rappers who are pushing things in a further direction.
All right, yeah. And I'm glad like rap needs that, right? Where we've had some pretty
Desperately.
good records come out. But the issue is they're too far between because we get a lot of crap in between all of that. So, but with this record, you definitely get, you know, a different take on certain sounds, a more rock heavy sound, a more experimental industrial style sound that you get throughout this record. I mean, at the beginning, I mean, the intro, scream into the mirror, scream into the mirror, into this mirror, blah blah. What you have that, the second track, and then I'll be right there, third. Like those almost reminded me a bit of Death Grips of how it started. Like some sounds like that where it's really it's in your face, kind of like going in between metal, industrial, rap, spoken word, doing a lot of glitchy sounds and stuff. It's unique in a way because there's only a couple artists I feel like that can get away with this sound and have it be approachable, which is what I really liked with this record. Because I'm like, oh,
Also,
wow,
want
these
to
are.
I want to shout out Denzel Curry as well, because I think he's another
Denzel
artist
Curry,
who
absolutely,
is in rap and also in this similar direction. I mean, yeah, Denzel Curry at some times does screamo for his raps essentially, but otherwise it's also industrial, it's heavy, it's experimental.
Well, I mean, even his record earlier this a month ago.
Yeah. And I think like he's a similar, and this is not to take anything away at all from JPEG Mafia. If anything, if they haven't collabed already, please do. But I think these are artists in a similar vein that I want to give flowers to, because I feel like there are a lot of times where I'm thinking of rap artists who are really pushing the game forward, and I like can't think of them in the moment. But here we just gave you a bunch, and this is just male rap artists. Let's not even start with the like female rap artists, because I honestly think you have a lot more depth there right now in the 2020s. But sorry to belabor the point, Sean.
Yeah. I really like, to me, where I like some of my favorite tracks we have. It's Dark and Hell is Hot. Hilarious title. I love that track so much. The glitchiness, the spoken word, the messing with the vocal sound and everything. It's I'm like, oh, this sounds so fresh and new in a way to where I'm like, oh, love that shit.
And it's a call out homage to the late great DMX, who had that original track. It's Dark and Hell is Hot. Because I was like, I know that from somewhere. And then I Googled it and I was like, yes, DMX. What a good. And, you know, with debatably fewer drugs, JPEG Mafia, I think, is really carrying that torch of DMX. You know, rap is different then versus now, of just like saturation. But JPEG Mafia is pushing that heavier, experimental, harder stuff forward. Like it's heavy in like a rock sense, but also hard in a rap sense too. It doesn't feel like he's rapping about smart things. He's coming from like a quirky, interesting perspective. But this isn't backpacker shit. This isn't like conscious rap at all.
Yeah. So it was kind of ironic when you're like, I hope him and Denzel Curry collab, because you realize that they collabed on this record.
JPEG Ultra. That's right. JPEG Ultra. That's right.
I'm like, how the hell did you forget that one? It's almost like the old jazz standard song.
Because I listen to tracks, and honestly, well, yeah, oftentimes I listen to tracks when I'm driving, so I don't always like see the titles or like who is featuring on them. I just like listen to them. But also I listen to this a lot when it came out, and we're reviewing it a couple weeks afterwards. Actually, yeah, just 1 or 2 weeks afterwards, and so my memory of it is like less clear. But yeah, like then that's why I hedged and said if they haven't collabed already, well, looky here. More on that later.
Well, looky here. Yeah.
But I just want to like point out some of the funny lyrics you get throughout this. First one, just the intro, first line. If I was an NBA player, I'd be Dylan Brooks, but worse. from the man who titled "Scaring the Hose." Like, it's just literally exactly what you expect.
It's just like, I love that intro right there. I'm like, it's so great. Oh, it's funny.
Of course, the NBA player who was like known to be, what would they call it in hockey? The enforcer. Except basketball isn't supposed to have enforcer.
Yeah, like a Rempe, whatever the guy's name is on the fucking New York Rangers. This like 7-foot goon. That's all he does is fight. Yeah.
It's like if you thought Ron Artest was a crash out.
Meta World Peace, baby.
Yeah. If you thought Malice in the Palace was a crash out moment, like at least he's like going through his like mental health bag. This guy just does it for fun. Like he just does it for sport. Dylan, yeah, this guy, Dylan Brooks. Yeah, but anyways, this is clever stuff in there. The features are really great. New Black History is, if I have any complaints about, it's just too short with Vince Staples.
Love that track too. I really like that collaboration, the pairing. I think it's great. The track with Denzel Curry, I think is fantastic. You have Buzzy Lee at the end of the record, second last track. Don't put anything on the Bible. Overall, I love this record. I love this project. The sounds, the artists that are on here. There aren't too many features, which I'm glad, especially for this kind of broad sound where you have, experimental sounds, industrial, hard rock, metal. You have jazz undertones, even like you have early aughts hip hop with that. So I said like the JPEG Ultra with Denzel Curry. That's like your old jazz standard almost with it, which is interesting how that sounds. And then but it fits in the record and the theme because it's trying to be different, but not being different for different sake. It's trying something new and you have an idea, you have a sound that you want to make and be like, okay, cool. This is what's going to happen with it. And yeah, I think this is a fantastic record. I'm really, really like it.
Yes.
And I'm impressed, especially even after Scaring the Hose. Like we've had a couple records of JPEGMAFIA that we've had on here. We've had your LP, you had your EPs and stuff that we talked about. I think we also did a record in 19 maybe with him as well. I know, and for sure Veteran in 2018, God's best music year on this podcast, which 2024 I was catching up to. It's the whole okay, especially if
I'm just like
we have
adjusting my camera.
Secret Horrors is when this shit just breaks audio phase. Please God. I Laid Down My Life for You is a fantastic record. I think especially for an artist that has experimented throughout their career, it still sounds fresh. It still sounds new for someone who's been pushing the genre, pushing himself as an artist for near a decade. Fantastic. Especially in 2024 with rap. Like, yeah. Go ahead.
And can I just say in the last word, I talked a lot about how it's a heavier record, but yes, JPEG Ultra has that jazzier bit. Don't put anything in the Bible, which you shouted out just a moment ago. It goes into, he can be calmer, more introspective. These are things that we already knew about JPEGMAFIA, but just as you also just said that he has shown that he's evolved his sound, he's evolved his rap, he's revisiting these styles and evolving them for his new sound as well. Rarely in rap these days do you get like genuinely excited on name alone for an artist to release something because their output has been so consistent, so challenging is the wrong word, but creatively surprisingly and in a good way, like consistently creatively surprising in a good way, in a consistent way is how this album tends to be. So, and how JPEGMAFIA tends to be rather. So good on him. Arbitrary Scale.
All right, Arbitrary Scale. We do Arbitrary Scales every week on Audio Face because our review is our review. Instead of giving it a letter grade, number ranking, and kind of detracting from everything, we kind of make a scale that absolutely makes no sense. And that's the point, because we want you to listen to our actual opinions and not just be like, this album's a 10 and this one's a 9, so that means this one is better. That's not the point. So this week for Arbitrary Scale, we have the best, one of the best, if not the best, miniseries TV shows ever made, The Sopranos. We're
The
going
Sopranos.
The Sopranos. The Sopranos characters. This is an arbitrary scale we could easily bring back too, but the heresy, the heretic that is the Many Saints of Newark is not allowed. So any characters on that, anything relating to that is not allowed. It's not canon. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I know
So,
which one this is going to be for me, but what is it going to be for you?
I'm very interested. This is absolutely my Silvio Dante.
Ah,
This is
okay.
my Silvio Dante.
I was going to say this is my Paulie.
Polly's a good one too. Ooh. All right.
Because, you know, Paulie's
Little
very reliable.
little ween tips, Polly.
Yeah. AT.
Love Yo, T.
A lot of ATs in here. Anyways, let me get ready. Oh, comments. Anti-Corbett saying GIF Mafia was better. Hey, at least JPEG, everyone knows how to pronounce that. No one's trying to go, no, it's Japi. Japi. No one's trying to do that.
Stupid.
Oh, and before we end this review, I can't end it without saying Super Gorilla. If you know, you know.
Oh.
If you know, you know. All right.
Super Gorilla.
I think to this day, the happiest he's been on recorded on wax. The happiest JPEG Mafia has ever been on wax. Okay. Let's move into the next album, shall we?
Yeah. All right. Next album of the day, Serving Up Gary's Way Bean. We have Paradise State of Mind by Foster the People. 11 songs, 43 minutes long.
I am so happy you're hosting this one because Foster the People has a special place in some part of Sean's body. Can you go into the history of Foster the People, especially as it
Let's
relates
go.
to
Say no
music
more.
and this podcast?
Say no more.
Let's do a mini history here.
So they made one of the best indie bangers in 2011 called Torches, and ironically a fucking song about school shooting called Pumped Up Kicks played on the radio for like a decade until people finally realized what the song was about, and they're like, oh. And Foster People are like, yeah, you should have figured that out by now.
It was one of my favorites because like it was 2010. It was like
2011.
It was 2011, but I would still call it like 2000 style music because it was that alternative pop that was yelling at you in its face about the misery of the modern human existence, but it sounded like a sing-songy fun pop song. So like people who like don't understand music or like don't really listen to lyrics at all were just treating it as such. Like, oh, it's a happy sing. Like Pumped Up Kicks was getting played in the same context as Happy by Pharrell Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. They're both upbeat songs, but like, that's why you got to learn music theory because you can do some really fun subversive things in pop music if you just add an upbeat track to it. And that's why Billie Eilish and Lady Gaga and a lot of the other like dark pop artists rule. But yes, Foster People, Pumped Up Kicks. That bitch has still got almost like 2 billion streams on Spotify, and it's only going to keep going up. Yeah, so Foster People, amazing. And Torches is just like a legendary 2010s record. I'm not sure if it was on 50 of the 10s, but I can check.
I don't know. I'm not sure. It definitely was on the bubble. If not, I put it somewhere, I think. But 50 to 10s was a ridiculously hard list. And then
it was bubbled. Well, we would have put it in the 50s. So we had some honorable mentions, and I think that was where we had it. Yeah.
God.
Along with Tierra Whack's Whack World to give you a sense of like where we're thinking of these things. We also put Bjork's Volnicura in here. So
Volnicura's a fantastic fucking record.
Good thing I keep records. Anyway, so that's Foster People's Torches. So you would think that they would continue on from there. Of course, on Audio Face, we've talked about the second album, The Curse, before. So how'd they fare in that, Sean?
Their second album, Supermodel, was pretty mid, pretty dog shit. I didn't really like it. Supermodel.
Don't remember much from it.
Yeah, really disappointing record to me for them. It was like you had like the opening track, "Or You Want to Be," like kind of like a little pop hit type thing at the time. But this is really when music, like especially indie alternative, was changing. You were getting more electronic sounds and stuff like that. And then you get Sacred Hearts Club in 2017, right after their third record.
Which
And
is
this
where
is
they
where
turned it around.
n-
I'm
no.
kidding. I'm kidding. I wanted to
No,
set that up for you.
this is when they pulled just
It's where they turned it
um
around to like dig in deeper.
Sacred Hearts Club was ass, except for one song. Sit Next to Me was actually sounded like a Foster People track, but the track before that, Doing It for the Money, did this stupid bullshit mid 2010s thing that a lot of indie artists and stuff were doing, of just adding like trap beats to tracks and doing things that just sounded like absolute garbage. I'm like, what the hell happened to
It was
Foster
when
People?
it was like when rock and alternative were panicking, and they were like, "Wow, this
Yeah.
trap stuff is like really, really like catching on." That I'm seeing the concert's massive, not realizing that within that genre itself, and I think that's like a little bit of like music non-expertise from either Foster the People and or their A&R and the representation, is that trap music was very clearly going to be, I mean, it had one version in EDM before the rap version, and then it had the rap version, and the EDM version started to adapt, and they sort of combined and went formed by each other. But it was very clear that like within rap and EDM, two of the most repetitive genres in music today, that it was going to be a very short-lived fad. And even like 1 or 2 years into the Gettin' while the Gettin' was good, it was at least while it was like really mainstream, because trap was underground since at least the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But
And
like once it got to that mainstream level and other genres started to look at it and get scared and make like iterative versions of it, you can look back at that now, 5 years, 10 years removed, and it was some of their worst music respectively. And Sacred Hearts Club is like the poster child example for that.
Yeah, that and Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy. Those three
Yeah.
artists all released these dumpster fire records like consecutively around that time. That
Honorable
made me
mention
like,
to Imagine Dragons.
they don't even count. Like Imagine Dragons never made it. Here's the difference between all three of those, all four of those. The first three, right? Foster People, Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, at least made good music, respectively. Like their early work is pretty good. Even the Fall Out Boy's early work is like pivotal alternative pop. I'm not a big fan of
Now
it, but
that
I
fall
can
off needs to be studied.
the fall off of that is insane. So is Panic at the Disco, because some
Because
of
for
the
the
early
record,
work is pretty good.
I think like Save Rock and Roll was like Fall Out Boy's Life of Pablo. That's where like you can squeeze out.
This is about to be an 8-hour podcast if I get into that. Oh, but no, I'm gonna start talking about Kanye's weird brutalist house that he's trying to. Anyways, but Imagine Dragons never made good music. They made like just absolute garbage heaps, piles, cat shit wrapped in dog shit, just like horrible. So they don't even count.
They had like
But
one or
back to
two okay songs, but like they didn't make
okay
any other songs.
songs, but they didn't make a fucking album that was worth it.
Well, it's
But
because
anyways,
they made a whole album that was that same song, like slightly remixed. But
literally,
this is Foster the People.
So then they had I was really disappointed with Sacred Hearts Club. It was horrible, and I'm like, well, all right, there goes another indie artist down the drain. And that's when I like one of my state of the music industry things we've had was talking about them, actually, because this is the reason why we're kind of going into this. This is their first LP since that record, because everything else has been EPs. And to me, where they went back to their roots, but in a positive manner, was in 2020 they released the EP In the Darkest of Nights, Let the Birds Sing. And that EP, I go, oh fuck, they pulled double reverse Uno Free Slim Jimmy. Which one of making a good EP and like almost a comeback record in a way. And I actually wanted it to be longer, but it was just an EP because they were saving stuff for what would now become the record we're going to review in a little bit. And I was like, oh, they still got it. They went off the beaten path. They walked with Heresy for a little while, but then they made a pretty good record with that. And
so
they had,
7 years coming, and like pretty much they've turned themselves into an underdog story.
And Paradise State of Mind is
Is this a return to
I don't
form? Are we doing it?
I don't even know. Like,
Are we
it
doing it?
is the pinnacle of a return to form. It is like
Hmm.
Jesus of Nazareth being raised from the dead, like popping up. All of the disciples are walking in, and be like, "Oh shit! Oh damn! You really just like walked up? Oh, we thought you were playing." Lots of people.
not pay the fucking bill?
This is
What do you mean the goddamn torture machine doesn't work?
this is one of those. This is like in 2018 where we had like MGMT's Little Dark Age. You had 1975's Brief Inquiry. You had Arctic Monkeys. You had so many like beautiful records. Some of my favorite records ever. In 2024, now we got Foster People making indie fun again. This record, or like alternative, I would say.
What are you gonna say?
Like, the sounds of this record is exactly what alt rock, indie rock really needed in that regard of being fresh. Because I am very, very critical of that genre because it's one of my favorites, if not my favorite. I mean, indie electronic, I guess, is technically my favorite genre. And for a band who had a pinnacle sound in the late aughts, early 10s, to make something 14 years later, and be fresher than a lot of newer artists, states to them really having that return to form.
I agree and disagree with you. So like on the facts, we're straight on, right? Like what we came up to here with Foster People, what we came up to coming in this record, all the context. That's why I appreciate like you giving that, and that's why I love doing that with you, because I saw the entire arc, right? And a lot of that was on Audio Face as well. And so coming into this record, yes, I was definitely pleasantly surprised. What I felt is that they did a remarkable, usually we've done return to forms from artists who have done like a one album misstep, right? Like usually it's the second album curse, but like Foster the People were in a trough, right? They were in the trenches. Okay.
It was
And they pulled
6-7 year.
They pulled themselves out, but like this is when you have a team in sports and you do like an entire front office, back office, like clean
rebuild.
sweep. Yeah. And then, it takes a lot of time. The initial years are pretty rough because you're just grinding and figuring out what does and doesn't work behind the scenes. But then you get a turnaround.
The Colorado Avalanche. 2017, literally historically one of the worst seasons ever in NHL. 5 years later, they win the cup.
I don't want to jinx it, but Ballmer's Clippers. If you're like, you haven't necessarily seen some of the results. I think the Clippers have been pretty middling in both the Donald Sperling and the Ballmer era. But I mean, the Clippers are playing in Inglewood again. They're no longer sharing and playing second fiddle with the Kings and the Lakers in the Staples Center. And they're yeah, not the other name. And
not the Coinbase Arena.
Yeah, they have a redesign. They have a couple of good veteran players. They have some new players. Like, it's a larger thing. Where I think they landed. So the trajectory of they are pushing things forward, I'll get to in like 20 seconds. Where they landed is where they should be right now, which is really a big feat. I don't want to like understate that, because you would never have expected that just based on their trajectory. Their trajectory is not a true return to form. They have returned the most form, let's say, in like probably in Audio Face history so far.
It literally, I really think, absolutely
like,
Audio Face history.
Usually, from how far behind Foster the People was, you don't make that up.
You don't make it. No,
it's like making up the 400 meter 400 meter dash when you are in 7th out of 8th place, 300 meters in. It's like winning that. It's like you're really. I don't know any more analogies. They did that really well. But the end result feels like, I don't know, almost where a band like Franz Ferdinand should be right now, because it has that sort of like exciting disco alternative sound. It's not something like anything new to me, right? But it's definitely great for Foster People. They're doing their own spin on it. It's not exactly a Franz Ferdinand copy, but it's evocative of some of those like bands from that time and from that era and of like similar ages, and almost where I wish they would go. So like Franz Ferdinand, I don't think is like really making that interesting of music anymore.
No, they're not. It's pretty flat. It's like Interpol. It's pretty flat.
Exactly. If they were, it would sound like this, is kind of what I'm saying. So it's like, I think the sounds within indie are there and around. And to that point I made earlier, which I took a little bit long with, and now I want to like dig into the songs so we can kind of land this long haul flight a little bit. But whereas in the beginning of this record and with some of their missteps in previous albums, they were misreading the music industry and trying to be duplicative of the wrong things. Now I think it's partially right place, right time, where the alternative and indie and rock space that Foster People kind of occupies is ripe for a return that they can do from an era that they really mastered, but also that, you know, the kind of sounds like Franz Ferdinand at their best hasn't been executed recently, even by Franz Ferdinand, frankly.
No, not
so
in
by
a,
going
not
back
in
to that
decade.
Yeah, so like by going back to that era, you know, Mike Snow is another one that comes to mind that kind of brings a sort of like peppy, fun, you know, synth infused. Gorillaz has done this, but it never really became like the full Gorillaz sound, right? Like, and it's only they did it for like a couple of songs, barely, right? So like they're doing something really good here. It's not, I don't mean to say it's like duplicative, but also like that's kind of what I have going on here. Also, I think it's a really good spec'd out album. But I think it's kind of top heavy because songs 1 through 7 have a certain really good pace, similar to a Franz Ferdinand album, where almost because they're at that pace, you almost get to the point where it gets to its own, not quite blandness, but it's like within its own sound too much. Thankfully, you get to Glitzig, which is not just like a fun track. It kind of has 2 split parts that go into it perfectly, where you start to get the latter half of this album, which is a little bit slower, a little bit like slower in tempo, but still keeps up that energy in a way where the album itself lands really well. I think that, but I still think that's the part of the album where I need to sit with and listen to more. I like a lot of the Holy Shangri-La, but I felt like it went on kind of long. Similarly with Sometimes I Want to Be Bad, but I feel like the last 2 tracks, Chasing Low Vibrations and A Diamond to Be Born, yeah, I think those 2 are some of the best tracks Foster People have ever made. You know, like
I think so too.
Yeah, like Pumped Up Kicks is gonna be like, you know, a classic. It's their first like hit, you know, like
Houdini and a couple others off of that record are going to be, you know, staples.
But as far as quality, if Foster People were to keep it up, and I'm not necessarily saying they should or need to, but if they were to keep it up, I now have the window of opportunity within my head to be like, oh, they could get to an Arctic Monkeys transcendent sort of point, right? Like where they're just making and charting their own way and really digging into what you can from rock to go, not just within eras they mastered in their contemporaries, but eras from before themselves that aren't too, you know, don't do grunge, Foster People, but like really dig into rock and its fundamentals and make something that feels timeless in that way. They can do that because those last 2 tracks are that good.
Well, the last 2 tracks and the first half of this record is almost an homage to like that disco sound, which that's my thing of why it sounds so fresh. Because, right, example, like that's why I kind of made the comparisons of 2018, right? Like you had Tranquility Base, Hotel and Casino, one of my favorite, if not my favorite records we ever viewed on Audio Face, where that's like 70s style, right? Like this lounge music and stuff that was sounded fresh in 2018, still sounds fresh almost to this day. In this alt rock spot, in this indie alt rock space. You had a Little Dark Age, which is like 80s synth, but again felt fresh in 2018 and still almost sounds fresh today. With Paradise State of Mind, you have Disco Hit, which is like you've had before, obviously, with your Franz Ferdinand, your Mike Snows, a couple others throughout this too, but they've done it. Those bands did it to where it almost identified them, where you could be like, oh, that's that sound. But Foster People, they've never even come close to that sound at all. that's why like the first 2 tracks, like See You in the Afterlife and Lost in Space, I was like, whoa, that was not what I was expecting whatsoever. Even from their 2020 EP and 2021 EP, I'm like, that's not what it sounded like at all. I was honestly expecting kind of like, okay, cool, you're a return to form, but you made like a 2012, 2013 sounding record. But
I was
to me,
expecting a slower record, frankly, because like that seems to be the
yeah,
move that artists are making. But no, they went in the direct opposite. Let's be fun. Let's be upbeat. Let's be punchy.
let's do
Let's actually
funk
get people
with it.
dancing.
Let's
Yeah,
do disco with this, but it fits. It fits for the somehow. They made it work, and to me, that's where it's fresh in that regard, where it's like, wow, like in 2024, you made a disco sounding indie alt rock record
I
that
mean,
stands out on its own.
and let me just highlight one of the meteor tracks in the middle. I mean, the title track is great, but just before that, Feed Me,
Feed
which
Me goes
is
hard. Yeah.
also, may or may not be a shout out to one of Sean's favorite DJs. But
Literally,
that track is downright electronic. Like I could mix that or remix
beautiful.
that into an EDM thing and it would fit in. Like, and that's
Yep.
up there with, like other big bands, like, who are alternative, who do like little movements into EDM. Like I think like Yeahs have done this like slightly a little bit too.
Yeah,
in
they
mixing
definitely
some of
have.
their songs.
Absolutely. Have.
Yeah, absolutely. You can really go far with this. It was a really good record. I'm going to be playing of a lot of this is one of the more memorable records from alternative as well this year, and so I'm going to be really looking forward to
Absolutely
playing
is. I
this more
think
this year.
there's definitely some very, very good records this year, and that one is like, oh, this is what I really wanted to have with indie alt rock, is just make something fresh, change it up, and it's a beautiful record. Fantastic.
I do.
Arbitrary Scale.
Arbitrary Scale.
All right, we do arbitrary scales every week. Our review this week is Sopranos characters, not the Many Saints of Newark, because that doesn't count. Yeah, shit.
This is going to be my Carmela.
Carmela's a good one.
Yeah, because
A good one.
actually, no, sorry, I was wrong. This isn't my Carmela. This is my Meadow. This is my Meadow because
Meadow goes hard.
At different points, she's either like, and again, I'm also going to note that this is a show of its era, written largely by men, and so Bechdel test it does not pass, right? But Meadow's character invariably is either like in the way or actually very smart and like driving her own sort of narrative and destiny and actually being helpful, which is definitely much more than can be said of her brother. So, as far as like comeback characters and main character energy, I think Meadow Sopranos certainly helps match that out.
This is absolutely Christopher Moltisanti. This is absolutely Chrissy. Just, Yo, T, the arc, the fucking up constantly, blah blah blah, becomes this big way. I'm not going to spoil Sopranos, but whatever.
Yeah,
one of my favorite, if not my favorite characters in The Sopranos. Him and Fudio.
He's definitely a Soprano fan favorite for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Last
album of the day is Serving Up Gary's Way. We have Crybaby by Ray Khalil. 13 songs, 42 minutes long. An album that I've been waiting for a very long time. I know her mom, that's why. So that's fun. I used to train Tyro when I was at my gym back in the day. So she was telling me about all the development of the record, all of this, and it was delayed and this and that. So it's been many years in the making of this and many iterations. I actually got to hit her up sometime because I want to really hear how it all ended up together. But Ray Khalil, we did I think For the World. I mentioned that in 2020 we did another thing with her before as well, that I was like, hey, watch out for her. Like, she's up and coming. There's some really good music that she's coming out. She had a lot of stuff with Anderson .Paak, kind of like his label and stuff that was kind of promoting her. And that's some of the stuff that was delayed and stuff. And I had a lot of sign-offs from people and whatnot. And I was really excited to get to this record. And yeah, I think it's... go ahead. Actually, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to glaze this shit. I want to hear what you gotta hear. I want to hear what you have to say. Actually,
That is fair because we, admittedly, through you can be a dick and a troll and say lack of connections, or you can say through the many or moderate amount of connections that we have to musicians that we have occasionally reviewed on Audio Face, we will express that because that could color bias and opinion in how we like review it, and that is how it is because we've done that with singles and things like that before. So that is also there. That said, when I listened to this record, and I was reminded of one of my favorite sort of like pre-COVID, hard to nail down, but I guess we would call it like R&B, neo-pump, funk-inspired records, which at least like production-wise, instrumentally, this is definitely like one of my highest praises I can give it, not even thinking about it being someone or whatever.
yeah, just whatever.
Is the Internet's Hive Mind from 2018. Just the way that blended funk and the way that like, it sounds, I was going to say it sounds like, before, as I said earlier in this episode in a different review, a lot of times I'm listening to albums all the way through and I have to kind of go back and go, okay, that's the title of that song, so I can reference it during the review. But when I'm listening to it, I don't always know exactly what the title of the song is, or for that matter, who's featured on it. When I was going through this, I was like, okay, if I were going to pin down this production, I was going to say either like The Internet or Anderson .Paak. And then we got Anderson .Paak later on. So it's like, okay, cool. God bless. So when I saw his voice, I'm like, okay, nice. But those are great places to pull from. Those are places that I've been a big funk is back advocate, not just in the early years of Audio Face, but continually. That stock has been, it hasn't been a meme stock. It hasn't been shooting upwards, but it's been a very reliable upward. It's never gone downwards. It's never
gone down. It's just gold reserve, baby. Just gold standard. Gold standard, baby.
It's an index fund to the S&P 500. Just let that bitch ride long term. You'll be fine. You'll be good. It's never gonna let you down as long as you play the long game. And that's what the Funk is Back recommendation has, and that is what you see a lot on this Ray Khalil record. It's lovely. I really enjoy it, and you get a lot of different energies from her, kind of like a rapping energy in some parts here. I mean, especially in the beginning. Shout out Freddie Gibbs, who does a co-sign the feature on here, which I really loved. Freddie Gibbs really, rapping at his natural best. But
I shot a guy 9 times with a Tech 9 in the back, and he lived.
Huh.
Interesting.
One of the better Joe Rogan episodes. But yeah, this is just a really well-paced, well-thought-out, well-featured record as well.
Yeah.
Feel free to talk about it more. Yes.
Glaze it. Fantastic record. Glaze on it. Bask in it. This is what I want in a neo-pop sounding record, because we've been really disappointed with some neo-pop records this year, especially where some of them were like, all right, we get into it, we're like, okay, it's not bad, it's not great, but it's nothing, it doesn't draw me in. Like,
and we call it neo-pop because R&B is a racist,
racist
category
trope,
for just like black
category.
Yeah, you'll notice that a lot of pop music sounds like a lot of R&B, and that's the point. How come certain artists get to be called pop and other artists with different skin colors get to be called R&B? Ain't that just things to make you go But anyways.
Well, you're not ready for that conversation. Even an album, real ones know that one. But yeah, with this record, is it with Crybaby, you get funk sounds, you get spoken word tracks, you get rap, you get just beautiful modern music in a way that is unique in its own way, especially with her voice. Because to me, what blew me out of the water was the second track, Is It Worth It? It reminded me almost of Sade, of the way that it's produced, like this mid-90s style sound that is just beautiful. It fits very well in this decade, that you get to that sound and I'm like, oh, whoa, like this is really unique in the way it sounds. Like, it's beautiful. And the very next track is Carpinteria with Freddie Gibbs, and I'm like, oh, the hell yeah, like you get right into that right after, so you change it up, but it's cohesive. And that's like the biggest thing with this record is You have a lot of different sounds, a lot of different tropes, ideas, and things that could very easily get misconstrued or just get to be all over the place where it doesn't fit. But because the production, the vocals, the lyrics, the features that are on here all do such a good job of working together and collaboration to where they make this beautiful cohesive record that feels fresh, that feels modern and new, and it feels like something that I'm like, oh, I want to listen to this, because a lot of neo pop records I can get into it and I'm like, okay, this is good, but there's very few that will really want me to get sucked in. I'm thinking of like your SZAs, your Janelle Monáe, some records that I'm like, oh, I can like really get into this, but there's the other sides where I'm like, man, just kind of discard it almost, right? And I mean, you know, talk about the Foster People record earlier, it's kind of similar to that, where with a lot of indie alt rock records, I can kind of do the same thing. I'm like, okay, well, this is what it is. Almost thinking of the B2B record we did last week, where I go, okay, I've heard this sound. It's not a bad sound, but it's nothing that's pushing this forward. And with Crybaby, it feels like this is one of the first neo pop records I've had in a long time where I'm like, it's hard to kind of push it forward in a way, but this is the most fresh sound I've gotten in a long time. We're like, okay, we're kind of pushing it forward. We're doing different things, but it's unique, and it's not doing things differently just to be different and hipster. It's because it's art and it's music, and it's like, oh, it's beautiful. Glaze on it.
Yeah.
And to me, what
I'm
one more thing, kind of as I'm going on that trope. To me, what also stands out is "Come Home." You get like this '80s sound, almost like MC Hammer style sound, and you get into it, and I'm like, whoa, what the hell is this?
yeah.
Getting into
You
that middle,
you
and
get
I'm like, this
something.
goes so hard.
You get some pieces with like the 80s like different world Martin drums and it's just like
Yeah.
it's really fun, and I love that homage. I love like I don't love so much when Bruno Mars does it because reasons, right?
It's fugazi, but yeah, this
Reasons.
is not fugazi.
There's a certain like there's a certain call back to it itself where there's a line when you're doing these things where it's like duplicative versus homage, and this is definitely much more in the homage section when you hear stuff
Absolutely.
like that. And to bring it home, I started roughly. There's never really a start and end up with an audio face review, as I hope you know, nor is there an arbitrary scale, which is why we're the better of the music ranking, more accurate, let's say, music ranking shows. But going back to earlier where I was talking about Anderson .Paak and that sound, it really coalesces in Know You, which is a really great track on its own. I think they do really well playing this back and forth with each other. And overall, this doesn't usually we talk about records as like top heavy, bottom heavy, middle heavy. This just flows all the way through. There's no piece of the record that overplays, underplays. It's very well balanced.
This is where they ask you, you're playing when you load your center of gravity. Is your center of gravity forward or aft? And you just say yes. That's what this record is. It's not that's what I really
you could
like
put a
about
level
it.
on the. You could put a leveler on the wing, and the bubbler is going to be right in the middle.
It's exactly. And because to me, it's almost like the way it flows is it's almost like it's living, and it's kind of living through you in the way that it sounds. And again, right, this is why I was just blown out of the water with this record, because exactly you had the 80s sound with Come Home. Even before the track with Anderson .Paak, No, you had the title track Cry Baby, which is this beautiful modern sound that just it's beautiful neo pop at its best. And the way the album ends with some more funk sounds and beautiful kind of slower tracks to get you in, because you don't want to pick one sound or one style and do it over and over again, or one pace and do it over and over again. And you end it with Overcast Overture, and it's just this beautiful display of musicianship and artistry that I'm like, fuck, no one like. It's kind of cool, kind of seeing the behind the scenes of how the record developed. And now this is where I always say, and we always say on Audio Face, take your time making records. Don't rush them. Have it be as organic of a process as possible. Take your time before it, because what can happen is you can make a masterpiece and stuff. And this is kind of the proof in the pudding, where this took a long freaking time to make, took years, and the end result is just music. It's beautiful.
Is there anything,
a
because this is
freaking record, an album.
I agree, and because this is a rare opportunity, not to belabor this and make this too long, but this is like a rare opportunity where you did get to see, kind of like 1 degree separation, a lot of the beginnings of this album, especially around 2020, which caused a lot of artists to, it delayed a lot. Just the events around 2020 alone caused artists to delay a lot of things around their careers for years that, artists are finally almost fully out of, but a lot of them are still feeling the effects from. So like, are there any like, the idea of, agonizing over what songs to have, songs like throw away, you got to imagine like there were more than 13 songs, thought about on here.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I just like wanted to ask if you had like any other things to add from that inside sort of process.
It was like stuff with Anderson .Paak wanting to help with like the production stuff of it, and I think label things and stuff too. Like a bunch of producers and people helping out with the record, trying to get it to really get to the sound where she had an idea, whatnot, and it was just taking a bit longer than she wanted to originally, but it ended up working out for the better in that regard. I definitely like need to sit down and chat with her for a while. So it's been a minute since I was at the gym and really had a good conversation with. But last I heard, which was midway last year, was like, oh no, it should be out and stuff pretty soon. But then they were still fixing some things and doing stuff, and it came out a year later. So it's just sharing, oh wow, like some songs and stuff might, like when you listen to records and stuff, they might be years and years in the making, which is cool to kind of see that process. And I'm just happy of how this record turned out, because I know there was so much hard work to get through it that I go, God damn, like even though I didn't know it and I got to listen to this record, I would have been like, this is amazing in general. And now even with knowing more of the background story of it and whatnot, I go, wow, that's incredible how it turned out. And it's great to see, newer artists and whatnot getting the recognition they deserve. And I think she deserves all the fucking accolades for this record, because this is an amazing, amazing project.
Yeah.
A full album. God damn.
Def Jam has a history. But they have a history, but they have a history of a lot of good records. And like you've heard a lot of, again, like you've heard good stories coming out of Def Jam, as you heard with like all labels, and feel free to get specific if you want to and do research. But you also heard like great things. Like Vince Staples was pretty much has the, a label's a label. I produced good stuff with them, but a label's a label, and it's much better when you're in more control in general. It's applicable to many businesses. But I think that if you do sit down and talk to her in an interview context, we got to record that. I will just shut up and just do all the filming, and you two can have the conversation, because we got to do that. That would be great.
Yeah,
and then
do that.
Yeah, we got to plan to figure that out, because that would be really awesome to do. And secondly, to do the super like cap on this is, I think, knowing, like, peeling behind the curtain with exactly what Sean said, with how long it can sometimes take to get these records out, it can give you a kind of perspective when a single or an album comes out really quickly and it's of like really high quality, like, a lot of things you're getting from the Kendrick Lamar beef. I don't think all those things were written this year. I think a lot of those were, ruminated on and had in the chamber, and maybe there are like some last tweaks and verses added to make it a little more relevant. But time helps, and you don't have to worry too much about time, as long as you are taking that time to apply it to making your music and making your craft the best it'll be. Because especially in the music world that we live in right now, where there's a pop sound, but only kind of, that pop sound can change based on whatever's trending on the internet in any given week. And, really timeless, really good things will be recognized whether they're released today or in the future or in the past. It's all about making sure your stuff is good, and the audience will find it. And who knows, maybe the audience will remix it and speed it up and make it a TikTok dance, and that's how you get your fans. But that's how it is. And you can kind of see from
Well, I mean, look at
The-
Foster People. That's their first record in 7 years.
Yeah.
7.
Take your time and
Take
you'll
your
make a good
fucking
record.
time. Please, take your time. Don't rush it out. Don't pull a Drake. Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
arbitrary scale. Our arbitrary scale every week is our review. Giving it a letter grade number ranking system does not make sense because we like you to listen to what we have to say. So we make a nonsensical scale that changes every week because we like to have fun on here. And that's how seriously we take ourselves. This week, our Sopranos characters from the TV show. And this is absolutely... Fuck. Hold on. I feel like this is my shit. Probably my Johnny Sack. This is one of my favorite characters in the whole. Like, I quote that sucker all the time. Johnny Sack, mob boss from New York. Keaton, New York. My favorite thing was with the Maserati. He could barely get in it and everything, and he's talking about how it's all Italian as a giant piece of shit, and I'm like, I love it so much.
This is Jennifer Melfi. This is going
That's
to
a
be
good
the
one.
therapist.
That's a good one.
Unsung
very good
hero of
character.
the entire show. Really moves the
absolutely.
plot along. Really moves the game along, and that's kind of what I want to get at. Usually when I'm picking within the arbitrary scales of the week, I'm trying to like tie it to how I came from the album to make the scale make sense. But it also doesn't have to make sense because that's the whole arbitrary scale system. Our review is our review. What we poured into that review and also the relationship that Sean built and the insight that Sean built cannot be reduced to a number or a letter grade. It's audio face, goddammit.
That's the idea. All right, we got some news. Oh yeah, we got to wrap up because I got to do some stuffs. Okay.
Oh yes,
quick hits. Black Midi go on hiatus. They literally said, yeah, that's it for a while. Who knows how long?
The singer guitarist Jordy Greep, which is a really bad name to see in a headline because you automatically think it's Creep and you're like, oh no. But he hosted an Instagram live and at one point wrote or said, Black Midi was an interesting band that's indefinitely over, which is definitely a sentence to say about a band you lead. Just he then, or apparently the singer bassist Cameron Picton wrote on a deleted post now that said, we'd agreed not to say anything about breaking up, so I was blindsided as everyone else, but maybe in a different way. I guess sometimes all you can say is LOL. So anyway, starting sessions for my own record soon. Looking forward, should be good, hopefully great. So it seems like maybe these things didn't end on the best of terms, or like the band itself, Black Midi, is a little bit of a men going their own way situation. But bands form, they dissolve, they come together, they don't. Black Midi definitely released some very interesting music during their time together. We reviewed Cavalcade and Hellfire in 2021 and 2022 respectively, and that was a little mini run they did. I don't think we listened to Schlagenheim in 2019, but it's like a run they did. Not bad.
Definitely did a run for sure.
Yeah, definitely an indie, very obscure run that if I meet someone in public who knows about Black Midi, my first thing to do will be like, hell yeah, you have a good taste in music. My second thing to do will be like, I want to give you a high five and dap you up, but I gotta ask, when's the last time you showered? Next story. Because Black Midi enjoyer fans are. Anyways, I'm kidding. We enjoy Black Midi, and I shower often.
All right. I don't even know how to approach this one.
Maybe I should go into this.
Yeah, but I'm gonna leave this one to you on that one.
So what had happened was Kurt Cobain, as many folks know, is dead. He was the front person of Nirvana. He's famously dead. And there is a fixture at the Museum of Pop Culture up in the Pacific Northwest where basically there's a placard on display that describes Kurt Cobain's death as, quote, Kurt Cobain unalived himself at 27. Unalived is a term used on TikTok that I think is part of this like growing algorithm speak of language that is informed by algorithms, because to use some of the other words you might use to describe what happened to the end of life cycle of Kurt Cobain, these words are automatically flagged by computers,
Right.
and they censor the videos from being seen. And so a lot of euphemisms are used. It's ultimately this cat and mouse game because the computers and the people who code them can't figure out these George Orwell newspeak type of things to avoid these algorithms. But yeah, we've had to and we don't make him like this anymore, audio face. We've had to adjust some of our language to make sure our videos don't get too flagged.
Two time.
But you know, this might be the time where we bring back the KYS, you know, honorary mention, because I think, you know, this is algorithm speak that we do for TikTok and all these other different things. And so there's going to be a whole generation of people who only understand this. But the criticism is that, and this is coming from someone who has attempted to unalive themselves, and the anniversary of such is actually in the month we're speaking in. You know,
true.
I think there's a trivialization. I mean, this isn't necessarily my opinion, but I've seen this and I kind of get it. There's a trivialization that comes from the fact that, oh, we can't use these words in algorithms because TikTok doesn't want to be blamed or Instagram doesn't want to be blamed if someone harms themselves. And, you know, America's a very litigious country, etc. But let's grapple with these things. Let's actually talk about mental health in this country. Let's not just talk about great things like if you're feeling something or if you want to support someone, there's a 988 crisis hotline that's really helpful, that's good around the United States. Other countries have this too. But when we're learning about this, especially in places like museums where algorithms don't matter, let's use the words. Let's talk about them. Let's you know, I'm not necessarily saying like, you know, say all the slurs when we're learning all history, but there's a certain context to do it in. I don't think social media is the right context, but people still need to learn these things, and museums are the right context. So don't hold back, use the words, but also teach it in a respectful way and be like, you know, this hurt a lot of people. A lot of people were harmed by this, and you know, it's affects people when you have these sort of actions, and there's better ways forward. So sorry to make that long, but that was kind of the controversy. I thought that was kind of fun. Let's end audio face on a fun note, shall we?
Hell yeah. So curious. And this is MF Doom executive produced record, shared a song, Unknown Species, that is interesting in a number of ways. One, because there's stuff about Mr. Fantastic on there, which who knows who Mr. Fantastic is.
Sorry to interrupt, but like this is interesting in a lot of ways. Like Curious himself, Curious with a K, has been rapping for a long time, would definitely be considered an old head, a very old head in this sense.
Absolutely.
Like, one of the grandfathers of rap at this point. But you know, he was on some of the early MF Doom records. I believe he was on Operation Doomsday. Yeah.
Question mark was on Doomsday.
Exactly. And so not only that, so this is a record that MF Doom had been producing in the lead up to his passing. So obviously didn't get to finish it, but has a lot of his saying in it. It's on Metal Face Records, which is MF Doom's label, and Rhymesayers Entertainment, which MF Doom worked with very closely. I believe Food was released on Rhymesayers, or maybe it was like some of his earlier stuff that was released on Rhymesayers. Either way, you know, it also includes Mr. Fantastic, Long Doe Life Elastic, Got My Life Between Boxes,
Man, plastic.
But you know, Mr. Fantastic has only appeared in the MF Doom sort of cinematic universe, both in, I think, premiering in the King Ghidorah record with Phasers, and then showing up, of course, in the hit classic Rap Snitch Knishes, the generational banger Rap Snitch Knishes. And so
telling all their business.
He features in this record, and even the folks at Dissect, who like really dig into albums, they did a whole season on the life of MF Doom. We have a bonus episode of MF Doom where we kind of talked about it for just 2 hours. That Dissect series has Spotify money, and they spent 20 hours of content and many more hours of research and a paid team to do it, and they couldn't figure out who Mr. Fantastic is. No one knows. I only found out through this post he has an Instagram and will occasionally just like freestyle rap over things and, you know, references Grieving of Doom and stuff like that. But dude has like 3,000 followers, but he's a real man. I don't know. Like,
Great.
I'm unnecessarily excited for October 18th when this record is due out to be released. Maybe it gets delayed. Who knows? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth when it comes to posthumous MF Doom influenced records. But like I said, I've said this before, any MF Doom stuff that trickles out past his death is just a cherry on top of a cherry. Like, we don't need more. He lived a good life. We have a lot of good music. Some of his later music was starting to be a little teetering on the old stuff. But if he's getting into the production bag, I'm down for it. I'm really interested.
Me too. It's interesting to. I'm really interested to see how all that sounds. So I'm down. I'm very much down for this.
Yeah, we
right.
get a little bit of everything this year. A lot of the new stuff, a lot of the old stuff. This is Audio Face. What was someone said? What if we find out he's an AI and has been the whole time, like one of the earlier ones, but they vetted all of this stuff and the obvious shit came out? Mr. We regret to inform you that Mr. Fantastic was a social experiment by MIT. Thank you for your participation.
I'm not. So this is like 7 levels deep, Doom Toothers. Then the Mr. Fantastic was the first AI. I'm so down.
No. Doom's still alive, and Mr. Fantastic is a psyop. Let's go. This is Audio Face.
I'm so down. I'm so down. This is Audio Face. That's it. This is Audio
Mr.
Face.
Fantastic lives in Area 51. Thank you, Cave Bats of Ware. If you're not already following on Twitch, please do. I want to see you in more streams. You're funny as hell. And I appreciate you very much. This has been Audio Face. This is Audio Face. This was, is, and always will be Audio Face. What does it mean to play us out?
Thank you for listening and listen to these 3 records. God damn it. And you can't follow me or find me anywhere. Thank God. You can follow Dan and all his stuff, but you can get the show at audioface.show for all your
He
needs.
remembers the link.
I remember the link. That's only one thing I need to remember now. Thank God. I remember back in the day when it was like 87 things I had to remember, and I kept fucking it up each time. It's great.
Yeah, and like it's like, why create ways for people to mess up? That's my new approach towards building systems. And boy, am I building a lot of systems. Thank you very much for listening and watching. We'll talk to you in the next episode. Have a good week. Be kind to yourselves, and cheers. Oh, sorry. One last thing. Oh, I forgot to do the music too. So, oh.